Welcome back to the Wicker Basket Homestead. It's been a minute since I've been on here, but out in the garden tonight and I'm doing some work. You can see my cherry tomatoes are going crazy. These are I believe the Burpee's Super Sweet 100s cherry tomatoes. Over here, got some cool flowers, some zinnias over here. Marigold is kind of dying, some zinnias. Right here you can see my peas are starting to die back, and so one of the things I've been doing tonight is just going through and finding these dried out pea pods, and I've collected a bunch of them over here. So you can see I still got a handful left to go through, but get the pea pods and I've been breaking them out and just throwing them in this bucket and collecting them. So I'm gonna try to replant these and see if I can get some peas to grow for the fall. Peas are a cold weather crop, and so they'll survive a frost or two and some colder weather in the winter. So going through collecting these pea pods, and I'm going to plant them. These are my beans that scarlet runner beans that I planted and didn't really have a great setup, and so I just threw some branches and some fencing up and they are going gangbusters, but they have these cool flowers. But what I was going to show you is back here I have a space along this fence that I'm going to plant some peas. So about, I don't know, a month or two, I threw this tarp down, and underneath I put some cardboard and grass, and you can see that this has helped kill the weeds and the grass growing along the fence line. It's also, you can kind of see in here, and this weed obviously didn't get all the way, but you can see there's little tunnels from bugs and worms have eaten through here. So that's actually just really helping to produce healthy soil. So I'm gonna pull the rest of that tarp and these logs back and then just plant here along this fence. So the idea would be that the peas would grow up for this fall, hopefully get another crop later this year, just right along this fence. The other thing that I've kind of talked about a couple times is my daikon radishes that I let go to seed. So you can see here I still have a ton of these seed pods that are growing up, but I've gone through and I've collected some of these more dry ones. So I've got a stack of them over here that I'll show. So yeah, just a handful of seed pods that have mostly dried out, and this is kind of what they look like on the inside. Seeds growing inside. I've got some scattered about here on this tarp, and so I'm also going to try throwing down some of these seeds just along the fence here again with the peas. The thing with the radishes is these are a daikon, so they grow to be a fairly almost carrot looking radish, and I can either harvest those to eat, or I can also just leave them in the ground, and those will basically help soften up the ground. Worms and bugs over the winter will eat those and poop out nutrient rich soil. So yeah, just helping to produce more soil. So I'm gonna go through and shell some of these seeds and throw them down. And I don't know for sure if these are going to work great, but it'll be something I'm gonna try out. And I might get some stuff, or I might just learn, or if I have a failure, I have a failure. It's not the end of the world. So here's a jazzy red zinnia that I'm trying this year, that they're small flower, but I actually really like the look of those. So the last thing is, if you remember back in this corner I had radishes and then the arugula that went crazy and went to seed. So I pulled off a branch of one of the arugula plants that I have here that's mostly dried out, and I have a seed pod just to show. It's really small, but to show what those seeds look like. Oh, sorry if this is making you dizzy. It's hard to control this, but yeah, just small little seeds. So I'm also going to throw down some seeds from the arugula here, go through, shell it, and then kind of plant all of these along this fence here. And it might get eaten by the groundhog that lives back here under that stump. My chickens might peck through and kill it, eat some stuff. It is what it is, but just going to try out growing some of these crops. And again, both radishes, the arugula, and the peas are all more cold weather crops. So even if you're in a northern climate right now, you can still be planting these for the next, couple weeks or a month. Peas, it's probably a little bit late, but arugula and radishes both for, through the end of August, you can keep planting and they will survive first few frosts. It'll actually help make them more flavorful, is what I've heard. So yeah, I'm gonna get some of that going on this section over here. The other thing is I have some bush beans right along, so here, kind of just a mess and tangle of stuff over here that I've planted. And this year I really focused on planting a lot of beans and peas because they are legumes and help improve soil quality. So came through tonight and got a nice bowl full of beans that I'm gonna go in and probably just put in a pot with like some beef broth and bacon and boil that up for dinner tonight. So overall, the garden is kind of grown into a mess. But it is what it is. I didn't spend a lot of time weeding this year. I kind of have a different strategy where in between my rows, I let this area right here is mostly all clover, which again is a legume and helps improve the soil. I don't know if I finished earlier. The legumes help because they have a beneficial relationship with bacteria that takes nitrogen out of the air and attaches nitrogen nodules to the roots, and that then adds nitrogen to the soil, and plants need nitrogen to grow. So yeah, I have mostly clover here. I've got grass. I mean, I haven't really been too picky. I've let weeds grow up. I mean, you can see here in this clump I've got a radish growing out. This is creeping Charlie, ground clover. I've got a bush bean, and then I've got a tomato, all just kind of growing out of this clump. And I'm not really worrying too much about weeding or pests. I'm just letting things that grow well, and enjoying what I can where I can. Learning through the process. I got a nasturtium here. I mean, this isn't something that personally I've tried to make perfect. I've just accepted the time that I have. You can see a sunflower growing back here, which I had like 6 of them planted, and the groundhog got into the garden and ate them all. This is actually one sunflower that it ate the top off, and then it sent more branches out, and now I have 3 or 4 heads I'm probably going to get off. Tomatoes have been doing well, and really it's the cherry tomatoes over here. I mean, you can see there's a couple beefsteak tomatoes. We got one actually the other day that we harvested and ate with some burgers. I think I got another one right in here that's trying to ripen up. Got another actually really big one back there. But yeah, I'm just, letting things go, seeing what works. The tomato on the trellis here is actually doing pretty well. It's growing tall, and I've just been weaving in and out on this cattle panel trellis. You can see here, I'll give an example. Just been doing that as it grows up, and that helps offer support and keeps things a little bit more organized. I do have some twine that I tied things up early on, and you can see I just kind of wrapped it along, and then as this grows, just continue to twist the twine around it to support it and guide it in the direction I want it to go. Definitely could have done better on that. Down here I've actually got a pretty cool nasturtium growing. But yeah, that's just a quick garden tour and update. Oh, one thing I just recently am trying out is a cucumber. So I've got a couple different cucumbers growing in this pot, and then I buried the pot. That just helps keep the sun off the black pot and helps conserve water, so I don't have to water quite as much. but I have issues with cucumber beetles and squash bugs. So I planted these pretty late in the year. It looks like the stems are still good so far. No bugs going up that. And you can see I've got one little cucumber forming. So this is a Boston pickling cucumber variety. So I have my one cucumber. I don't think that's enough to start making a batch of pickles or anything, but that is neat to see. I just noticed that for the first time. But I started these quite a bit later, and for the first month, as they were growing, I was just putting it in the garage at night and then bringing it out in the mornings and trying to keep it protected from bugs, because I just have had so many issues here with the bugs on any kind of squash or cucumber or zucchini plant, melon, all of those. So yeah, that's cool to see that I have a cucumber growing. One last thing I will show, which is interesting, is I've got some beets here that I just threw seeds down, and as I pull this back, it's hard to tell, that is a huge beet right there. So I might have to pick that later in the week and have some beets. I've got chicken here. They're working overtime on pest control. So yeah, that's the garden tour. Thanks for joining me tonight. Talk to you later.